Welcome back to the music side of Lotus Moon Productions, aka LMP Music. It's been quite a while since we released a podcast episode that focused on this industry. I've been tied up in my wrestling podcast. How about that? If you didn't know, I'm a big wrestling nerd, and if you want to join me in the discussion, look for episodes through the week where we cover many wrestling promotions. We also bring guests on from all around the world to share their opinions. So if you want to be part of the conversation, please don't hesitate to PM me. But getting back to the music side of things, today we're back for our special sequel. Last year I had the absolute honor of interviewing an amazing artist. He tackled so much in the music industry. In these last 10 years, he's ready to smash the industry once more. If you're unfamiliar with him, I encourage you to go back to listen to part 1, which is below in the description. He's created many remixes for many artists such as Madonna, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, David Guetta, will.i.am, and so many more. He's also created music for many video games such as the Sonic series, just to name a few, and continues to raise the bar on his original music with his unique and compelling sounds. So without further ado, please help me welcome back the one and only Bentley Jones. How are you this evening?
I am good. Oh my God, you do your intros so much better than me. Like, I have to redo mine at least 3 or 4 times, and you just kind of like steamrolled that on the first go. I'm impressed.
Well, it's not easy, let me tell you.
You make it sound easy, so well done. Like, I feel like an imposter now. I'm glad I have music to fall back on.
Well, I'm trying my best. I mean, this is my first kind of official recording, so I mean, I guess I'm on the good roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would have thought that our next encounter on a podcast would be in the middle of a pandemic?
I know, right? It's so inconveniently timed. I mean, could they not have done this when I wasn't planning to release an album? My God, like, how inconsiderate.
I know, how selfish. So selfish. To everybody listening right now, Ben and I have come up with a fun way to answer you guys' questions, and we have quite a few to go through. But we've decided to go at them throughout the podcast. So if we're talking about a topic and an audience member has sent in a question based on what we're currently talking about, we'll get that question in. That way, it leaves people not waiting to the very end to get their questions heard, and that way they're still part of the kind of conversation. How does that feel?
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I think that's awesome, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have come up with, because you always ask me the most fascinating questions. Even when I set a topic, you managed to get those sneaky ones in. So I'm on the edge of my seat already.
Yes. Well, I mean, the first one already is coming from Eric, and Eric is from British Columbia, and he asks, "How have you kept yourself motivated during these tough times, such as the pandemic?"
It's it's funny because so many people are obviously working from home, or they don't have as much work to do, or if unfortunately some people or a lot of people are out of work right now. Um, and I mean, as a lot of people already know, the music industry has come to a screeching stop. Um, and which is fine for all those people who have the security of being employed. But when you're self-employed and when you're a completely independent artist, you don't have the choice to sit still. Like, even with the industry in the situation that it's in right now, which is at a complete standstill, like there's no gigs, there's no touring, and pretty much nothing is set in stone until 2021. And even then, indie artists don't have the luxury of sitting still. So if anything, that on its own has been all the motivation I've needed to work my ass off. Like, I have been working so hard these past couple of months. But now that I've found a way forward, especially with these new songs coming out, I know all the legwork is going to be worth it, because there's going to be so much new content for you guys this year. And I've already started booking some shows for next year. So it's all turning out good. I'm quite happy to be working this hard at the moment.
Yeah, one thing that you're really talented at is kind of turning in a situation that's bad into a really good one, like taking life and, the whole lemon saying and just making lemonade with it.
Uh yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned before. My therapist brought it up as well. Um, and uh, yeah, I'm glad it's kind of been noted because I don't know, like life has a habit of throwing curveballs at you, and I've had my fair few, shall we say. I don't want to like say that I've had a lot because I'm sure there's people out there who've had more. But yeah, I've been in a lot of scenarios where it would have been really easy to just kind of step back and say, no, I'm defeated, I'm done. But to be honest, I kind of love what I do too much. And so in those scenarios, just like with lockdown and this pandemic, I've just kind of I may have slowed things down and taken a breath and taken a beat, but I'll look at things and say, okay, how can I change my approach? How can I do this differently? So it's probably because I love music and I love what I do. Um, Otherwise, what madman would still be doing it at this point? You know what I mean?
I definitely do. Some of the stuff that you've told me over the years, it's like, whoa, like, some of the stuff that comes out of that. But one skill that is highlighted very much here is the fact that a lot of us do go through very similar things. Some of us go through worse things than others. But at the end of the day, it's having the skills to be able to look back and to see how far you've come, and also in the moment be able to use those skills to say, hey, this is a really tough time, regardless of what I'm dealing with. How can I fix it? How can I make this a better situation? And those skills often go underappreciated by a lot of people. People are very hard on themselves, including myself. And those skills alone are just not skills that everybody else has that, people should take the time to try and learn.
Well, I mean, it's even in the moment if you don't have the skills, because there's been plenty of my disastrous scenarios where I've literally sat there. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Because I've like, I
Yes,
can't.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sure I asked you this before, but yeah, I can't remember. So, but yeah, there's been plenty of times where I've literally looked at myself in the mirror and thought, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like I have no idea what I'm doing, how I can move forward from this. But it's having that objectivity, I guess. That's the hardest thing. Like if you're in the thick of it, like if there's a lot going on, a lot of chaos, a lot of negativity, it's really hard to step out of yourself and try and view things for what they are. But in that moment, if you don't have the skills, then it's the perfect opportunity to learn and grow. And like I say, I'm fully aware that in the grand scheme of things, people have been thrown much, much worse things in life than I have. But if I want to impart any wisdom or any knowledge on anyone, it's just the fact that it's not about what you've been through and the things that you've done or anything like that. The only important thing in this whole process is how you come back from being knocked down. It's how you get yourself back up. And I think that is a really strong and positive message to be sending out there.
Absolutely. Especially during these pandemic times, because people have been struggling at home, just to figure some sort of structure in their life. Because, all of a sudden people have this 8 to 5 job, or, 9 to 5, whatever you want to, wherever you're working, you have a structure in your life. And suddenly this pandemic has changed everything. So you really have to look at yourself and either develop some skills or be thankful for the ones you have, because in this time, a lot of people, and speaking of another question too from Marcus from Twitter, he was wondering about, when not doing music, what else did you do to keep busy during lockdown? I mean, you've shared quite a few different things to me that you've been busy with, but can you tell the audience?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because I have spent about 95% of my time working on music.
That's
But,
true.
yeah, I miss the gym. I really miss the gym. So, but at the same time, I love the fact that I've had to figure out how to get that same level of training at home. So I've been doing a lot of home workouts and learning a lot more about home workouts than I knew before. And mixed into that, my cardio is just dance. Oh my God, dance is such therapy for me. And one of the most amazing things to have come out of lockdown is all of these online dance classes that weren't available before.
Yeah.
And especially at the start, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my work and how to move forward, I was just doing so many friggin' dance classes, and I was having the time of my life.
That's a perfect segue into another question too, because you've talked about the gym, and from what we've seen, you work your ass off. Like, you are definitely disciplined in the fact that you can go to the gym, you know what not to eat, and you work your ass off to have a body like that. And my friend Patrick wanted to know, how much time do you dedicate to training to have such a great body shape? Because I'm curious about that too. You like the amount of videos, the amount of moves that you're able to do with your talent. I'm curious, like, where does all that dedication come to towards your training?
Um, it's funny because I didn't get into training primarily for aesthetics. The first main reason I did was because of my health, because I have so many joint issues from when I was growing up and from being as active as I have been my entire life. I needed to build up my muscular strength to support my joints, which weren't necessarily as strong as they should be. Um, so that was the main thing, to just improve my overall health. But then, if I'm being honest, like, I've been in a few scenarios where I have been kind of targeted for being like the short, small, skinny guy in the room. And at the time, like, obviously I feel quite differently about it now, but at the time, there was just a part of me that was like, I don't want to be the small skinny guy anymore. I want to get some meat on my bones. So at least when I'm walking down the street, they won't want to pick on me.
You do an excellent job.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, obviously, it has the perks, considering my job is so upfront and in the spotlight and just putting myself on show. So to be able to feel confident to just do that at the drop of a hat, that's great. And it's nice that the work that I put in is appreciated from people just looking at my pictures and whatever. So I guess that's what's kept me going all this time. But yeah, primarily it's for health. That's such a boring grown-up answer, and I apologize.
No worries at all. But I mean, one thing you mentioned too about, like, when restrictions are lifted, you just want to continue doing what you've been trying to do, is like, it makes me wonder about Lisa's question too, because Lisa asked from Ontario, and we both know Lisa.
Lisa, who is this Lisa you speak of?
Lisa wanted to know, what's the first thing you look forward to doing once restrictions are completely lifted? We know that restrictions are slowly being lifted in certain parts of the world, but once they're completely lifted, what is the goal for Bentley Jones?
Aside from the gym, obviously, hugging people. Um, I Yeah, I don't know when that's going to be appropriate, because it's one thing to start opening up like shops and bars and stuff like that, but then when we're allowed to socially interact with each other like we were before, oh my God, I just miss hugging people. Like, I'm a serious hugger, like I'm a proper koala bear. Like, I hug all of my friends, I hug my family, so I really miss hugging people. So that's probably the first thing I'll do. I think I mentioned to you in a passing comment that when lockdown is lifted, I'll just be running up to random strangers in the street, hugging them. It's like, do you want a hug? Please hug me.
I'm sending you a virtual hug right now as we speak. What about plans to tour? I know that came to a close because of everything.
Yeah. Well, everything that I went through last year was to kind of get touring on track. And despite everything that happened in Japan, I managed to kind of achieve that goal and make a lot of progress and start booking a lot of dates. And then poof, COVID happened and lockdown happened, and it was just if I'm being honest, the feeling was Japan all over again. I was like, oh, okay, here's the next thing that's going wrong. Um, I'm looking forward to doing these shows because I feel like I've been gearing up to them forever. I did a bunch of shows in Japan last year, but it was more like promotional gigs. It wasn't like a string of dates, like a solid season of touring, which is what I'm kind of planning for 2021. So that is going to be amazing because obviously I've done loads of live shows over the years, but I haven't really embarked on a solid tour. So that's definitely something that I want to tick off the bucket list, and that's going to be happening in 2021, thankfully.
Well, I know over here in Canada land, we're super excited to whenever you're able to tour over here.
Again, I mean, it's been really tough lockdown, but there's been so many great things coming out of it. And one of them is all the truly international people that I've been working with and chatting with and doing these virtual gigs with. And I've been in contact with a few promoters and bookers for in Canadian land. So who knows? Maybe Canada will be added to the world tour. Allow me to take over the globe.
Well, we definitely look forward to it whenever that time comes. Now, before we dive into what happened in Japan, because we just mentioned it there, one thing I wanted you to answer for anybody who's new to the podcast right now, and anybody who's new to Bentley Jones and wants to know who he is. For any new listeners out there, how would you define yourself and your career?
Oh God, I hate when people ask me to do this. Because I hate defining myself, and I think that's a really good anecdote for the new album, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My music is definitely pop orientated, because that's the music I was brought up on, from my mom's influence mostly, and it's the music that I love listening to. So I think no matter what style or genre or influences that I end up incorporating into it, I am at heart a pop artist. And damn, I don't know. I'm so bad at this. I always prefer it when other people describe me because I don't feel like it's my place to identify what it is that I do categorically in that way. That's such an artsy, bullshitty answer.
Well, I mean, it's kind of true. I mean, it's really difficult to define yourself, and you do have music that has. I mean, yes, it's pop music, but it's evolved so much. You know what I mean? Like I've listened to your career for the past 10 years, but you yourself have seen your career start from, over here, and then over time it's just gone way up here and evolved so many things. You go, one genre goes this way and then genre goes that way. Then you spin a cover, you do this and that, rock, pop, dance, it's just a mixture of very many sounds.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not afraid to experiment, I guess, and that comes with the freedom of being independent. Um, I guess see before everything else, before whatever genre or style or image or whatever, I would hope that my primary branding is as an independent artist because I think that fact alone shapes so much of what I do. Like the fact that my music is so eclectic and I can experiment with so many different styles, and the fact that it's normally the majority of the time, and especially now, 100% now, it's presented exactly how I want it to. And again, that's entirely down to the freedom of being independent rather than having to answer to anybody else.
Well, thank you very much for answering that question, and I hope the audience has an idea of what they're about to expect. Now, you mentioned your mom there, and I know your mom was in the video that you shared a week ago entitled Bentley, the Story So Far, and that's where I wanted to segue into this video because that was a video that said the management group that you were with before said that you were too controversial. They said, you know, they were worried about what other people might think. So could you go on with that story and tell us exactly what happened down in Tokyo?
I love it when people quote my songs at me. Honestly, I'm not in 100% sure myself. All I know is that when I was living in Tokyo last year, I completed the contract that I was under being there at the time. And while I was there, I negotiated a new contract that was going to allow me to stay there permanently. And the company that I was negotiating with, they were 100% behind a new Bentley Jones album and have it orientated towards the Japanese market to embrace all of those little intricacies that kind of have it identified as a J-pop album, even though it will still be a very distinctly typical Bentley Jones album. But that's why everything that's going to be coming out this year, you'll notice it still has that Japanese tinge to it. And that's the reason why, because these songs were planned and recorded and in the works last year when I was negotiating this deal. So they were 100% behind, and the fact that they were so 100% behind is the reason why I started work on all these songs in the first place. You know, it seemed like it was a done deal to the point where we had terms written out, we had numbers and figures agreed, like all of the nitty-gritty details we had nailed down. Like we were literally at the final point of this contract negotiation. And so when my visa expired, I came back to England, which I knew I would have to do anyway. And it was kind of agreed that I would come back, and as soon as this company could sort out my next visa, they would let me know and I would head back out there. And I had my apartment ready and where I was going to stay, and like all of that was set up and ready to go. So all the time I was in England, I never knew how long I had left before I had to go back to Japan. I was like constantly living day to day, which was just, it wasn't stressful. It was just very anxiety ridden. And I wanted to use the opportunity to work with my UK team that I have here, who are absolutely amazing, and I love them to bits. So it was a case of, right, I'm doing a new album. I need to get new videos, new promos, new photos. Let's get this done ASAP. And we rushed everything through. We worked our absolute balls off. And yeah, as a lot of people saw in one of my blogs, it was a really stressful time, and I took myself away for a little break over New Year's. And I can't remember now, even I'll have to go back and watch my own blog. But it was the 1st or 2nd of January, I had this Skype call, and it was like talking to a group of different people. They wanted to start pulling support for an album, and I was pushing them. Why? Like pushing hard, because obviously I put all this work in, and they were happy for me to go there and work on other projects and have my album as its own separate entity. But they made it very, very clear they wanted zero association with this album. And I pushed and I pushed, and the best that I could get out of them were those quotes that you saw in the blog, was that they thought I was too controversial, and they were worried about what people would think if they associated themselves with my artistry and this new project. And yeah, it's a good job that there was an ocean between us, because I probably would have launched myself at their faces.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from my point of view as a fellow gay man as well, it's never about what other people might think of you. It's about putting yourself out there, taking a chance, and being proud of exactly who you are. And how can we as a society even move forward with 100% acceptance if we're worried about what people might think about us for something that shouldn't even be on the radar? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm not 100% sure, and so I've never been one to kind of badmouth anyone. It's not my style. It's probably the British in me, and so I'm certainly not going to put words in anyone's mouth either. And the fact that they didn't specify leaves things totally up in the air. But from what I can gather, and like I say, completely hypothetically speaking, that I could be completely wrong, but from what I can tell, it's down to two things, and it's either the sexuality side of things, which is obviously homophobic and just another horrible form of bigotry, or it's the fact that I'm a foreign artist working in Japan, which is racist. So it's kind of like, is it this terrible reason? Well, this terrible reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to accuse anybody either. But hypothetically, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, as an artist, isn't that the whole point of artistry? You know, pushing the boundaries, putting yourself out there, and doing exactly what you believe in. I mean, as long as you're not obviously hurting people physically and being absolutely bigoted and discriminated, of course, like that. But their whole point of an artist is to put your art out there. And if you put your art out there, and someone looks at you and goes, we're not going to produce this because this is too controversial, there's really not much else you can pick at what that's about if you look at the art and what it represents. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, but I kind of get it to a point. In certain scenarios, I'd be a lot more understanding, but it's the fact that they refuse to specify.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't say what specifically about this project made them uncomfortable, for lack of a better word. Because if they'd have said like, oh, it's your new image, or it's the style of these songs, or it's the videos, you know, then it's something tangible. And I can get to the crux of, okay, well, these really are terrible people, or hold on, maybe my work just isn't being understood properly. Mm-hmm. But it's just the fact that if I'm being honest, and I don't want to sound bitter or angry, although a lot of people would argue that I have every right to be, I just think it was really spineless to not go into those specifics after the way that I put my life on hold.
Yeah.
And pretty much turned everything upside down so that I could try and move over there. For them to not go into specifics was really fucking low. And for that reason alone, I realized, no, these people don't deserve me. I shouldn't be working with them. And particularly this album. This album is too fucking beautiful and too precious to be put in the hands of people like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from a personal standpoint too, like putting the negativity of Japan aside just for now, and thinking about how difficult this album was to produce just by itself, because I've been honored to hear a few things off the new album, and you're taking a leap, and I love it. And the things I've seen from this album make me want to be more about who I am. You know what I mean? It makes me inspired. It makes me feel more comfortable. It makes me feel that, hey, you know, some of the things that I love are being appreciated now through other artists. And I think this is a big deal. So like from that personal standpoint, how difficult was that album to produce, setting the stuff from Japan aside? Because you're kind of putting yourself out there now in another level. And sometimes that can be a little difficult, especially with words that came from Japan. That can hurt you a bit.
Um, it hasn't been difficult. I certainly wouldn't use that word. I have to say it is the most anxious that I've been
Yes,
putting out new
yes.
music for sure. Because to be honest, I'm not too worried about people not accepting the new stuff. Because I mean, if they don't like the songs, that's fine. Like that's a taste thing, and an artist can't be there to make everyone happy. Like that's not what the job title requires. But if they suddenly turn about because I am expressing myself in a lot more like fluid and unrestrained kind of way, if they have any problem with like blurring gender lines or sexuality or anything like that, then I really didn't want them on board in the first place. Like it makes my skin crawl to think that people like that would listen to my music anyway. So if those people want to fuck off, they can. This is your notice. Like you can go now. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Absolutely. I am 100% in with agreement with that. I mean, which brings us to, like, since we're talking about your latest album now, or your new album that's coming out very, very soon. Tristan wanted to know, what plans do you have to make this album your biggest production yet?
Um, oh my gosh. Um, that's such an enveloping question at this point.
Well, I bet you have lots of plans.
There's so much, but it's so funny because there's so much of it that um I've done before in terms of putting content together and presenting the music with the artwork and videos and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm very well versed in that whole process and that whole journey. But what I have done this time round, even down to the music and the nitty gritty details, is that I've tried to either do every single process differently in a way that I've never done it before, or just simply upgrade it and do it better and bigger. And some of those nuances, they're going to be so subtle you might not pick up on them, but to the point where when I have been recording these songs, because the album's not finished yet, but right down to putting reverb on the vocals. And I set myself little challenges because at this point I've done so many songs for myself and songs for other people that you almost get like into a pattern of like, oh, lay this down and put this reverb on and this delay on, and like, because you know your stuff, you know your tools. So through this album, I've set myself lots of challenges like, okay, I need to put reverb on, but I need to do it in a way that I've never done it before.
I like it though. I like that. I really like that originality.
So and then there's obviously the much bigger changes, like the bigger productions for the videos and the much more kind of high-end refined image and looks and costumes and stuff like that, which to be honest I think is required of the new image, the new identity, and the new songs as well. The new songs have this level of sophistication to them that I knew was going to be really, really expensive in terms of wardrobe. Like these sophisticated songs require these sophisticated threads, and sophisticated threads are not cheap. So,
Well, one song that has come out completely sophisticated, and let me tell you, is "I Could Be Your Girl," the lead single off the new album. Could you tell us the inspiration from that song? I think you mentioned that it came to you in a dream.
yeah. I would love to tell you the inspiration of it, but I have no idea where it came from because I was unconscious at the time. Yeah, I mentioned this in a blog, but yeah, been a couple of times in the past where I've come up with a song in a dream, and I'll wake up, when I wake up, it's very typical dreamlike. So it's very hazy and partial. But on this occasion, I woke up. I can't even tell you what the dream was about. I don't remember. It was like a typical wake up 60 seconds later. You have no idea what the dream was about. But
Yeah, yeah.
I had this such clear vision of this song, and like to the point where I almost woke up singing it, and there was a whole set of lyrics that I could remember. I knew how the chord progression was supposed to go, and I heard the style and the production arrangement and things like that. So I jotted it all down in my phone, as I always do, and then it was so clear. I felt comfortable not doing anything with it for about a week, and a week later I went into the studio and recorded it. But I mean, stepping back and trying to analyze where that inspiration came from. I've never been afraid of kind of experimenting with gender and breaking down those boundaries, because to me it's a complete illusion. It's a complete farce. Like, you can always trust me to break things down to black and white. And so in terms of gender, if we look to the animal kingdom, we are the only species. Oh gosh, there's a car alarm. I don't know if you want to pause for the car alarm.
You know what? It's all right.
You sure?
I'm fine. It's okay.
Awesome. It's because my new apartment is like right on the street. Yeah, we're the only species in the animal kingdom that have those like concrete gender roles. And if you look to other animals, you'll have like males who behave like females and females who behave like males, and like individual animals who have traits of both, but they have their place in the pack and in the tribe. So our kind of concrete, oh, like boys are supposed to do this and girls only like pink. We're the only species on the planet that really do that. So that's always fascinated me, and that's always been a topic that I've liked to discuss and learn about. And I suppose that's crept into my work as an artist over the years. And so I guess one night when I was asleep and my brain was doing its thing, it was like, right, let's fully explore this concept in musical form. And I guess that's probably where I Could Be Your Girl came from.
Well, there you go. I mean, okay, that video when you showed it to me before, oh my goodness. I cannot wait for people to see this video. I can't wait because I am so excited just to see what everybody says about it, because it's awesome. It is awesome. Maybe I feel like I'm doing you a disservice here by telling everybody how awesome it is, and then everybody tunes into it. They're like, well, it's not as awesome as Shugo said.
It's kind of lame, really. They oversold that one.
Yeah, they oversold that one. No, it's I'm all for behind it. I mean, you had an amazing performance on Virtual Pride as well, which was really, really cool. You had posh and sexy dancers on there. Who were they?
I know. Well, I found them kind of lurking in the corner of my studio, and they were just like too gorgeous and too talented to not utilize. So I kind of roped them in, and they showed me some moves, and I got them on camera. Yeah, it was, I think it was Virtual Pride where I first did the whole split screen. And I chatted with the organizers, and they were so lovely. They insisted on having a chat with me on the phone beforehand, and they said during lockdown and looking at all these other festivals, obviously it's great that artists are getting online and doing their things in their living rooms and whatever, but a painfully large majority of them are picking up their guitar or their piano and just doing like unplugged, chilled acoustic sets, which is totally cool. Like I'm totally all for that. But to be honest, before they mentioned it, I watched quite a lot of these festivals myself, thinking, oh man, I'm kind of done with the chill vibe now. I need a party vibe. And that's what Virtual Pride, Pride Collective, that's what they asked of me. They said, is it possible that you can bring the party? And I was like, you know what? I will bring the party. I will bring the party's friends. I will bring the party's auntie, and I will bring the fucking kitchen sink. It will be there. So, and with my tour being cancelled, I went away from that conversation thinking, right, how can I achieve something closer to what I was going to put on stage in a virtual form from home? And that's how I came up with the whole split screen, having myself as my own backing dancers, because my shows were always going to have dancers. So, and that was my first question: how can I get dancers onto my virtual performance? And I was like, I know, since I do everything else myself, I'll be my own dancers too.
That was really cool. And no offense to anybody on the Virtual Pride performances anywhere, but you gotta raise the bar. I saw yours, and everybody else compared to it was just like, I kind of expected that going forward. You know what I mean? Like, you really laid that barrier down, and having those dancers was really, really unique. And speaking of that, like, Artie has a question as well. And he wanted to know, how many takes did you have to do with your dancers?
Oh my God.
Was it difficult syncing it up?
It really was. Oh my God.
I imagine.
Yeah, I'm not a confident choreographer, shall we say. I love dancing. And I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how to put on a good show, a good performance. But in terms of choreography, that's why I love working with other artists, so that they can bring something to the table that I can't.
Yeah.
So for the first couple of numbers, because I did Queen of the Night and Betty, I had to come up with that myself. And that was the hardest part. Like, I would come up with choreography that I thought was good, and then I'd film it and I'd watch it back and I'm like, nah, that doesn't work for me. I need to think of something else. And that's where I think the distinction comes in. You know, like, I am primarily a musician. I'm a musical artist. And then I work with people like Ashlyn Brennan, who is my choreographer. And she just, like, she comes in there because even though I did Queen and Betty, she choreographed the new song Ima Ima for the Pride Collective. And the way she comes in, like, she sweeps in like a hurricane, and she's like, right, I've come up with this combo. You need to do this, 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 and this, and you learn it, and it's amazing. She's like, right, my job is done. Bye. And you're like, wow. She does it, like, without even taking a breath, without even breaking a sweat. And you know what? She did Ima Ima when she was really sick as well. We were all worried that she was coming down with COVID. Thankfully, I think it was just like a cold or a bug or something. But yeah, she was sick, and she still came through and choreographed that for me. So I cannot take credit for that. But in terms of the filming, that's why it took so many takes, because those first two songs I choreographed myself, and I just wasn't happy with what I was coming up with. And to support that point, on the flip side, filming for Ima Ima was really fast. Like, once I'd had all my sessions with Ashlyn and she taught me all the choreography, then it was just a case of just filming it through 2 or 3 times for the 2 backing dancers, and then just doing it live.
Wow. Well, geez, it sounds like you work with people just as stubborn as you. In the greatest of ways.
Honestly, it's kind of awesome. Like, on video shoots, when I have Ashlyn on set and I'm working with Julian Ostwick, who's my video collaborator, they're both perfectionists as well as me. So we have this really funny kind of chain of command when we're filming the sections with choreography, because the first point of critique is always Ashlyn, and she will look back at the footage and she'll be like, nope, your arm was out there, we need to do that again. And so we have to wait until Ashlyn's happy. And then if Ashlyn's happy, then Julian will critique. And he was like, well, the angle wasn't quite right there, and I could probably move the camera better during this section, blah, blah, blah. So he has his moment. And then once Julian is happy, I get my critiques.
That sounds like me. Oh my gosh. I'm super anal on things at times. Like I need it to be its exact way. And I was actually just talking about this before we came on air about that. That's really, really funny. Like, but it's good though. It's good to have that team of perfectionists, because then you know that when you have a complete product, you'll all be 100% like, happy with it.
Oh my God, yeah. And I think that's why the bar has been raised for the new videos and the new projects, because whereas before I was kind of a bit of a lone wolf, I guess, now I've started building this really amazing team of people who not only are they amazing at what they do, but I know they've got my back. Like we support each other, and I can trust them with pretty much anything. And that's why like I'll quite happily call up Julian and Ashlyn if I have a problem, either professionally or personally, and we'll just talk it through. And that's kind of the working relationship that we have. And I really cherish that, because being an independent artist, those professional relationships are really, really fucking hard to find, especially in such a cutthroat industry as music.
For sure. Absolutely. And you have to have people that you can trust. And I mean, speaking of the whole virtual pride thing too, is Ren wanted to know that he recently came out as pansexual, and he had a difficult time telling people. And he wanted to know, from your point of view, how was it when you came out as gay? Because I know you told us all in your video, which was an amazing video, by the way. Absolutely amazing video. But he wanted to know, was it difficult for you to do that?
Well, I kind of did that video for you guys. It's funny because I've always, my entire adult life, I've been out. So for me, that wasn't really like a coming out video. It was more just of the fact, like, I'm going to address this topic because no one's really asked me about it yet. But yeah, I came out when I was 17. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of bumpy. There was a few people, like family and friends, who were pretty supportive. I mean, it was a process, and it took a long time for quite a few people to adjust, actually. And then, unfortunately, there was a group of people that were not so supportive, and some of them either kind of drifted away and our relationship kind of ended, I suppose. And the others, they've either educated themselves and come about, or I don't know, I just keep them at a safe distance because I know that their acceptance is conditional,
Yeah, I do.
But it's so subjective, and it's like, even in 2020, I have this conversation quite a lot, actually, and it gets thrown up. I don't want to kind of like smear paint on whole groups of people, but it is predominantly my straight friends, and every now and again someone will say, like, oh, gay rights have come on so far, it must be so easy to be young and gay these days, like there's hardly any homophobia and it must be really easy to come out. And I'm like, no. And that statement in itself shows me how disconnected you are from the gay community. Because if Trump's America and Brexit have taught us anything, it's that discrimination is now at an all-time high. Like, I can't talk about I can't talk about any other country other than the one that I spend the most time in. But here in the UK, like, hate hate-motivated crimes, whether that be race or gender or sexual orientation, they're at an all-time high. And this curve started with Brexit. And that I've heard, talking to my American friends, similar things happening in America ever since the current administration. And so, yes, we have made a lot of progress when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights, which is obviously wonderful. And we really should take a moment to give ourselves a pat on the back for achieving all of these things. But at the same time, there is so much more work to do. Because we have these rights, we are more visible. And because we are visible, I believe that's why we're experiencing this heightened discrimination and this kind of negativity and this violence towards us. I don't want to play down the idea of coming out in 2020, because it's still really fucking hard. And anyone who thinks it's easy really has no idea. They've either had an insanely wonderful experience, which is great, good for you, but there are still people who are put out on the street and have people disown them and experience that discrimination on a daily basis. Yeah. That's not to say, like, I don't want to focus on the negativity, because obviously coming out it's such a positive and reaffirming and freeing experience. Anyone who's gone through the experience of coming out will know what a weight is lifted to just simply be recognized and identified for who you are. It's incredibly liberating, and it's worth kind of stepping to the edge and making that decision to go ahead and do it, because not only can you suddenly start to develop a much stronger and more authentic sense of yourself, but through that experience, whether it's has its positive traits or negative traits, you will suddenly be able to identify the allies in your life and the people who are going to support you and the people who are going to trust you, and the people who might unfortunately show less favorable colors, and to maybe keep them at arm's length, because they are not going to be contributing to your journey and developing as the beautiful unicorn that you are.
Yeah, it's tough that at times that we have to mention some of the negative when we're trying to make these points, but it has to be said. It has to be said, and it's never easy for anybody to come out. And I mean, again, if it is, and you're one of those people who have had it easy, then I'm very happy for anybody who has had it easier than other people out there. But there's still a lot of discrimination in the world about it, and I mean, sadly, it's just not going to go away in a day, but we have to work together and make sure this stuff doesn't happen in the future. But thank you very much for that answer.
Yeah, no, I was worried then myself, because I did find myself focusing on the negatives. And like I say, I really don't want to put anybody off coming out, because it's such a, I mean, yeah, like I say, it can be really, really scary, but the end result is so worth it. And I know, like, at this point it's a cliche because this campaign has been around for such a long time now, but it really does get better once you take that step and you start that journey. It does progressively get better, whether it was easy or difficult. And at some point you will look back and think, you know what, it was the best decision I ever made. It was such a good thing.
And just a little bit of word of advice for anybody out there is never change who you are for anybody else. You're perfect just the way you are.
Yes, absolutely. God damn, I can attribute to that. I've done it on and off for a long, long time.
Yeah. The disease to please, as they say.
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that one.
No? Okay, well, it exists.
Yeah. Honestly, it is the fastest journey to unhappiness,
Yep.
to compromise yourself for other people. So yeah, just try to be aware of it and learn not to do it.
Now, I'm curious, getting back to the music side of things, if you don't mind.
Yes, I do mind, Sheila.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
No, I don't want to do the job that we were here to do today. I want to do something else.
I'm done. Well, we have roughly about 10 minutes left or so, and I had a couple more questions to get through. And one of the ones that I was thinking about was I'm curious about Titan Wars and the song that you composed for them. Will it be on the new album?
No, it's a standalone song. And I was under the impression it was going to be released last year, but it kind of got stuck in production and they delayed the release. And then COVID happened, and now I don't know when Titan Wars is coming out, but no, it was a standalone song that I did for the studio, and I was never supposed to sing it. They came to me and they wanted a vocal song with the intention of sending it to an artist because they wanted something really hard and heavy and totally not the style that I'm currently working on. So I came up with the song and they were really happy with it. And I thought that was going to be the end. And they came back to me and said, you know what, we love this demo version. Would you mind being the artist as well? And I was
Wow.
like, okay, cool.
It's a hell of a song. It sounds definitely different from what you've released, but I love it.
Yeah, I kind of love it too. It's really fun to perform because people don't really see it coming. I did it at my 10th anniversary show at one of the conventions last year, and it was really cool. It totally because nobody knew about Titan Wars or heard that song before, so it was the first time everyone hearing it in that moment, and it totally got the crowd going. It was a proper crowd mover. So I thought, ooh, onto something here. So I'm looking forward to when that finally gets released. It's a case of when I find out, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. And speaking of collaborations and things that you make for other people, Dakota wanted to know if you were to cover another track by the lovely Utada-san outside of Kingdom Hearts covers, which would you choose and why?
Oh, there's too many.
There's too many. It's like our talks with Ayumi.
Yes. God damn it. Like these Japanese divas, why do they have so many good songs? Utada Hiki. I've always loved Final Distance. I think that is a beautiful song. And that was actually lined up to be a cover on my Japanese debut. It was one of the songs that the label suggested that I try covering, and I think there is a demo of it somewhere. But I also love Heart Station. That whole album means a lot to me, and I think Heart Station is such a sweet little like pop love song.
I've always found that song very adorable.
Yeah. Damn, there's too many. Those are the first two that come to mind.
You know what though? It's the two I know. I don't know a lot about Utada Hikaru's career. Like I've listened to a handful of songs from her, but those are two of the ones that I've listened to. So I actually knew them. Yay! But yeah, I mean, having a spin on those two tracks with your voice would be certainly unique. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I did Final Distance for the Utada Hikaru cover tribute album for her anniversary. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but I was a massive fan of Ai before I got a chance to meet her in LA, and she ended up beating me to the punch, and she covered Final Distance on the tribute album, but her version with her vocals. Like I say, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but she has such a deep, rich vocal for a female artist, which makes it so unique. and so signature. And I think that's one of the reasons why she became so successful in the first place. But her version of Final Distance is just gorgeous. And just listen to it with headphones, with her voice like bouncing around with all the layered backing vocals. And it's just an absolute pleasure to listen to.
Wow, I'll have to look into that one.
Mm. Just giving you free PR, goddammit. Need to call her up and send her an invoice.
Now I have one more question from the audience, and that is Jesse wants to know, outside of music, what other opportunities would you like to explore if given the chance?
Outside of music, oh my gosh. That's such a broad question. I have no idea how to answer that. I guess professionally, right?
Anything
Anything.
outside of music. I mean, it could be professional, it could be anything. Like, what if someone said, "Hey, do you want to be on this TV show?"
Um, See, I always thought, but like because of being creative and being in the entertainment industry, and you always think being in a music video, there's a certain amount of acting involved there. So for the longest time, I always thought like, oh, given the opportunity, I'd love to try my hand at acting, you know. And then I've had over my journey, I've had the opportunity to work with a few awesome professional actors. And the one that opened my eyes the most is Octavia, when we filmed the video for Passenger together. And having to perform with her and like match her, you know, like with us both being on camera in the same frame and having to match the performance that she was giving off, I was like, fuck me, acting is hard. maybe I'm not naturally good at this. Maybe I shouldn't consider being an actor.
So, you wouldn't want to explore the television side of things.
I mean, if I was given like a really wide time frame, to be honest, I love doing anything creative. So if I had the opportunity to learn the craft and to get good at it, then I would totally try my hand at acting. But to be honest, before acting, I would probably say dancing. Like if such an open-ended question, if it's a case of like waving a magic wand, because I know when it comes to dance, I'm quite limited by the fact that I do have certain joint conditions. So I try and push my boundaries as far as I can without just out and out causing injury to myself. But if I could wave a magic wand and suddenly like I have no joint issues and I naturally this beautiful flexible swan, then I would totally love to pursue a career in dance, because I almost did when I was younger, and being a part of a dance school and doing shows and stuff like that. I just loved it. It was just another expression of music, which is probably why I loved it so much. So above acting, I'd probably say I'd love to see what would happen if I had a career in dance instead.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You got to find them. You got to hit them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do it quick before I develop any more injuries.
Well, I think we're at the end of the podcast now. I wanted to say thank you so much, Ben, for taking the time to come on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always fun. These things they don't feel like work when it's it just feels like I'm getting together with a cup of tea and having a catch up with a friend. So
Well, I do have a cup of tea with me, but it's herbal tea. What are you having?
Oh my gosh, I have tea too. I have it in my signature mug, but it is just a normal English tea.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, I switched to matcha recently. I've managed to find matcha, a
That's delicious.
reasonable supplier.
I love matcha tea. It's so good.
Mm. So I'm trying to drop some of my coffee because I've become a little bit addicted through lockdown and all this work that I've been doing. So and I read, you know, Rebecca Black,
I
the
don't.
oh, she did that viral song Friday. And since then, she's actually become a really great artist. Anyway, she was on Twitter, um, talking about replacing coffee with matcha because you don't get the sluggishness that you tend to get with coffee. And
Huh.
so I'm taking her advice and giving it a try, but I've only just started, so I can't tell you if it's working or not yet.
Well, let me know if it works because I might do that too.
Yeah, I will definitely. Especially now that I found matcha that doesn't cost £25 in the UK. Oh my
Damn.
God.
Damn.
Yeah. Like
Well,
considering I couldn't not have matcha when I was in Japan, and it's just dirt cheap and everywhere. And then to come back here and it's like this tiny little pot and it's £25. Oh, thank God for Amazon Prime.
well, before we wrap things up, I do want to say there was one more question, but it was less of a question, more of just letting you know that you're doing awesome. And Saray wanted to say, "Hey Ben, I don't really have anything to ask, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm really excited to hear your new stuff. Sending all the love. The new era is here."
Ah, oh, he's so awesome. He's such a nice guy. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Have you guys ever collaborated? The music I think would sound unreal. The sounds that come out of him, oh my goodness, it would be crazy.
We might have something in the works already.
Well, I definitely, if there is something there, I cannot wait. And if there isn't, oh my goodness, the sounds that come into Saray. I had him on here, but he was actually my last guest last year on the music side of things, and yeah, I definitely commend people to go check him out. Now, before we sign off here, what is your social media, Ben? Where do people go to get your stuff?
I've gotten really lazy because there's so much friggin' social media these days. So just go to bentleyjones.com and you can find all of my links right there.
Perfect, and you'll be able to find his website and his Twitter account in the links below as well. And as always, if you want to keep up to date, please follow LMP on social media. You can reach us on SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, and Lotus Moon Prod on Twitter. And you can also find us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. How about that?
How about that?
Exactly. How
It's
about
like
that?
it's
References
like
and
you
all.
planned it that way.
And I wish we had more to talk about. I mean, there's plenty to talk about, but there's only so much time. So with that, this has been LMP Music. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on, and we are signing off.